program you are about to hear is entitled Precipitation. This is part of a series of discussions with Richard Kinninger entitled On Becoming an Initiate.
Both matter and energy are formed by archangelic mind out of the primal substance which we call basic energy. Basic energy is the fundamental creation of God, even though it is neither matter nor particles of energy. All of the universe is permeated by basic energy, and where basic energy ends, that is the limit of space. Basic energy is like a frictionless, motionless fluid without mass, but we can detect its presence because it does offer resistance to the passage of particles of energy on the physical plane. Basic energy imposes an upper speed limit on electromagnetic radiations. On the other hand, thought, an energy of the fourth nutational rate, traverses all space instantly and also without being diminished in accordance with the inverse square law. Every particle, on whatever plane of existence, consists of one or more rapidly spinning, donut-shaped vortices, or eddies, in the basic energy. A vortex makes the basic energy somewhat more concentrated or denser within its bounds. As a result of its spin, a particle's axis has a precessional wobble like a gyroscope's. This wobbling is called nutation. There are 7 distinct nutational rates, one for each of the 7 planes of existence, and these rates do not shade even slightly into faster or slower modes. The nutational rate of the particles of each plane of existence is exactly double the rate of the plane below it. Therefore, the vibrational rates of the 7 planes advance by octaves. The nutational rate seems to be responsible for the unique variations of physics manifested by each plane of existence and keeps the various planes from interacting with one another. When these particles traverse space in straight lines, they constitute energy. When the particles tightly orbit another particle or particles, they form atoms of matter on all the planes of existence. Every atom and particle on the physical plane is the result of and is defined by an exact etheric pattern on the second plane of existence. That etheric pattern is itself composed of atoms or particles of the second nutational rate. The etheric plane of existence has been contrived by God to be especially sensitive to the effect of thought. Even the most casual thought is impressed on the akashic record. Through archangelic mind power, energy and matter were first precipitated as etheric particles, and these were then used as patterns to hold together the corresponding particles the archangels created on the physical plane. The binding force of gravity originates in etheric patterns. Angels are mentally capable of coalescing etheric particles into complex, self-replicating patterns called vital bodies, upon which the physical bodies of plants and animals grow. New species are thus consciously evolved by the angels. Man's mind is capable of drawing together etheric thought forms, and therefore he too is an original creator. Man's ability to clothe his etheric patterns with physical atoms by direct mental precipitation is limited to high adepts and masters. But unless a distinct etheric thought form is first precipitated on the etheric plane by a man, his gathering and attraction of the means to bring his dream into physical reality will not proceed in an orderly fashion, nor even be likely of realization at all. The etheric pattern he creates acts as an attractant and a focalizing point for gathering and utilizing the energies and resources he must bring together to make his desire a physical reality. The process used by higher beings of mentally creating etheric patterns, plus mentally clothing them directly with physical atoms, is referred to as precipitation from the ethers. Incidentally, the term ether has been used by scientists to refer to a theoretical medium to transmit and support the wave-like phenomena of electromagnetic radiations, and it has no connection with the etheric plane of existence other than an unfortunate similarity of name. Every human being can at least form etheric patterns mentally, and this ability, combined with his conscious effort to build upon it in the everyday world and fulfill it, we will refer to merely as precipitation. The more clearly defined and the less vague the etheric thought form he precipitates, the more rapidly and surely the physical counterpart can be brought into being by him. The majority of people go through life never even suspecting the powers of the tremendous natural resource which is built into them, mind. This powerful tool, when used properly, will bring the good things of life into your possession. Money, health, and serenity, the traditional goals of success, are yours through discipline of your thoughts. Whatever you need and can actually use in your daily affairs, you can bring into your environment as if by magic, and precisely the way you want it to be. In order for you to better understand and apply the law of precipitation, we will separate the process into 6 basic steps. By using these 6 steps, you can begin to develop this marvelous tool. Each step is essential to the success of your precipitation, and not one can be left out. The 6 steps of precipitation are 1. An intense desire. 2. Visualization. 3. Concentration. 4. Action. 5. A confident attitude. And 6. Silence. Let's explore each step. The first step is an intense desire. Naturally, before you are likely to expend the energy necessary to bring something into your environment, you must have a sufficient desire for it. Desire fires your will to see the project through to a successful conclusion. The very fact that you earnestly desire something creates an emotional charge which increases the intensity of your thoughts. The stronger your desire, the more wattage, as it were, with which you broadcast your intention to the universe. When you intensely desire something, you think of it more and more. Naturally, the more you think of it, the more you visualize it and run imaginary scenarios of yourself in possession of it. The universe is totally impartial in its mechanics. It conforms to anybody's thoughts. The etheric plane performs in response to evil thoughts as readily as to positive thoughts. There are no limits imposed on the will of man to mentally draw to him whatever he visualizes or believes he wants. There are no limits to what you can have. However, if you engage in sorcery to influence others mentally, you suffer the karmic consequences. And if you hope to retain what you bring into your environment, you must compensate for it with karmic credits. But the fact remains, the universe is neutral and open to everyone's mind power. So do not dream small dreams, but rather reach out for great concepts. No one ever got more than he aspired to. If you bargain with life for a penny, then a penny is the most you will get. We are all too subject to traditional fears and cultural limits to our horizons. We are each entitled to control as much of the world as we can handle. Rarely does anyone care to stand in our way unless we try to take something away from him that he already has. The resources of this planet have barely been tapped. Imagination is all that is needed to yield ever more prosperity and blessings for everyone. The intelligent marshaling of human effort can accomplish virtually anything with a dream and a plan of appropriate scope. Surely we shall combine the vast wealth of Lemuria with the great technical competence of Atlantis, which this planet easily accommodated and had the resources to support, into an even more magnificent and abundant civilization. Most people in the world experience a glut of things they don't like because they worry and fret so constantly about these things rather than think about the conditions and things they do want. Everyone's world conforms to his thinking sooner or later. The preponderance of your thought follows the lead of your attitudes and outlook, and this is what precipitates into your life via the mechanics of the etheric plane, responding to what you think about most. If fear and anger are the predominant modes of your thought, then the things you fear and hate will enter your environment because you drew them to you mentally. There are a tremendous number of people who subconsciously do not want success because of the obligations which being successful would place upon them. And there are yet other people who believe they do not deserve success because of their feelings of guilt or pervading sense of unworthiness. Obviously, these attitudes present a counter-precipitation to what one might otherwise choose to enjoy. The underlying causes of such negative attitudes must be addressed and corrected before a person can achieve effective, conscious precipitation. It should also be remembered that a precipitative effort simply cannot begin when you are trying to decide between 2 or more alternative plans or goals. One goal, and one only, must be chosen from among competing alternatives before an etheric pattern can be built. So long as you are pulled in several directions, your desire is too scattered to have the necessary focus and single-minded intensity required for success. The traveler who is torn between going east, west, north, or south is unable to proceed anywhere. He must choose one route and thoroughly kill off consideration of all the rejected options so he can cleave directly toward a destination. The second step of precipitation is that of visualization. As mentioned earlier, Each item on the physical plane has an exact etheric pattern which had to first exist on the second plane of existence. When you visualize the item or condition you want, you are creating the beginning of the etheric pattern for it. In this respect, the visualization is much like a blueprint which you would give to a building contractor. He will use the images on the paper to turn them into reality. A sharper, more defined image is easier to work with and better guarantees accuracy of his work. When all of the component parts have been considered and mentally organized into a complete plan, the physical realization of it proceeds smoothly. The visualization process, which is a function of the mind's power of imagination, should be frequently repeated to intensify the strength of and reinforce the precision of the etheric pattern being created. It is useful at this point to use visualization aids like drawings and precise detailing on paper. An artistic rendition of exactly what you want can be hung on your mirror or carried in your wallet or purse for frequent review and projection into the universe with perfect fidelity as to your desire. Include yourself in your imaging. Visualize yourself enjoying it and using it in mental movies. Visualizing a parking space just where you want it, in front of a downtown building or theater at a busy time, without seeing yourself parking your car in it, may well produce the opening, but allow someone else to pull into it. Don't make the similar error of trying to precipitate a sum of money with which to buy some house or some car instead of visualizing exactly what end result you want. Money is too general an item for effective precipitation, and if you do get a sizable sum, it tends to fritter away in disconcerting ways without obtaining the object you really wanted the money for. The third step is concentration, which is closely allied to the visualization step. Once you have formed a clear image of your precipitation, focus your attention on that image to the near exclusion of all else. The violet screen, which I explained in the Great Virtues discussion, provides the perfect avenue for attaining an undistracted, single-minded concentration. Nuclear physicists have generated powerful magnetic fields to compress and contain ultra-high temperature ionized gases called plasmas, which would instantly destroy any physical container were the plasma to touch it. Instead of using magnetism, it is inherent in the precipitation process for your mind to modify the binding energies of the etheric plane to form a similar pressure chamber made up of etheric force fields. Your intensive, concentrated focusing of mental energy upon your precipitative visualization builds up a pressure in that etheric pressure chamber. This pressure under your mental control is power, and it can be accumulated and condensed through a series of many inputs over a period of time to build an etheric pattern upon which you are directing your attention. The mental power with which you endow your visualization is in direct proportion to the intensity of your desire. The greater your enthusiasm, the more rapidly and precisely your precipitation ensues. Since at your present state of advancement, you are probably not able to mentally clothe etheric patterns with physical atoms directly, you must next do something on the physical level in order to bring your precipitation to completion. This leads us to the fourth step, action. It is good to have faith and know that God's laws always hold true, but the Epistle of James reminds us that faith without works is dead. For myself, I have recognized the fact that it takes time for the natural outworkings of forces to occur, but while I am waiting, I work like the Dickens. Remember that the etheric pattern you have mentally built is a powerful attractant for what you will need to gather together on the physical level. You will be amazed at how the materials and the people with the talents you need will just seem to drop into your lap at the right time and in the right order. If you are precipitating a new job, that will be precisely what you want in the way of wages, conditions, challenges, and future opportunities. You must go out and make contacts with likely employers. The exact situation you want may very well not come about from one of those prospective employers, but rather from an entirely unexpected quarter. But your active efforts on this mundane level are important to the eventual success of your precipitation. Such active support of your desire, plus use of the 6 steps of precipitation, tends to further focus your mental energies and crystallize your thoughts into stronger etheric patterns. It is a recognized fact that most people are more action-oriented than reliant on abstract visualizations, so action is a potent stimulator and pacer of precipitative endeavors. Should it be that you seek to precipitate a spouse into your life, Visualize what you want in that person's appearance, personality, interests, age, and so forth, rather than picking a specific person and trying to mentally induce him or her into marriage with you, for that would be sorcery. Action also entails the acquisition of karmic credits to compensate for your precipitation. A trained ego can bring about almost anything into his possession, but if you don't have the money or karmic credits to pay for it, you cannot long retain or own the results of your successful precipitation. The fifth step of mental precipitation is a confident, positive attitude. Once you decide on a thing or condition to precipitate, you must remain confident of its positive outcome. To hope it will work implies doubt. Know that it will come about. Fear of failure will detract from your ability to concentrate your full mental energies. In addition, fear or worry of possible failure creates images which can counteract the creative energy you expend in attaining your goal. God's laws never fail. However, there is no question but that fear is one of man's most prevalent and dominating emotions due to millennia of negative thinking, ignorance, a sense of helplessness in the face of nature and unseen powers, superstition, and fear of demons and unknown causes of disease and natural disasters. But you know better. Therefore, adopt an attitude of having already succeeded and be thankful rather than fearful. Rest assured that your precipitation is coming about so long as you conscientiously apply the 6 steps. The frequent use of an affirmation, such as Kue proved to be so efficacious, aids in reminding yourself of your power as a human ego. The human mind works on what concepts repeatedly pass through the consciousness and thus embed themselves in the subconscious brain, where they continue to act similar to hypnotic suggestions. At least twice a day, and as often as dozens of times daily, repeat, "I am an agent of God in action. Wealth manifests in and through me." The 6th and final step is to remain silent about your precipitation. To prematurely talk about what you are planning to precipitate or expect to acquire is to release the accumulated mental energy from your etheric pressure chamber. By remaining silent, you continue to charge that etheric condenser with your creative mental energies. You should only discuss your precipitation with those who need to know about it in order to help bring it about. For instance, to build your home, you may need to consult with a realtor, architect, or contractor. Their involvement is essential to the realization of your precipitation and does not constitute a negative influence or a cause of dissipation of the pressure from the pressure chamber. In addition, their added mental energies and actions will assist yours in bringing your precipitation to fruition. Your silence will avoid the negativity which is frequently generated by those who do not appreciate the worthiness or value of your goal. Why be on the defensive? If someone doesn't need to know what you are working on, why share it? People may be jealous of your aspirations or simply believe you can't do what you claim. This could result in negative mental energy being directed against the purpose of your precipitation, which could cancel it out. By not rousing opposition, you do not have to dissipate your mental or emotional energies in overcoming it. You also do not expose yourself to uninvited criticism or jeering ridicule. Then, too, your telling another person of your plans could generate such enthusiastic congratulations from him that you might derive sufficient gratification from these praises so as to have no further incentive to pursue the effort of carrying through. The repetitive focusing of your mental powers upon a given precipitative endeavor has a side effect of eliciting the attention of other persons via their sympathetic mental attunement to your thoughts. People with similar interests seem to be drawn together over even great distances due to this mental phenomenon. The persons who need one another to accomplish mutual interests thus seem to be drawn into one another's environments. Many flourishing partnerships have come about in this way. An unwanted natural effect of precipitation is the fact that negative thoughts precipitate as well as desirable ones. It is possible to keep the worries and fears that you dwell upon from eventuating into reality by talking about them, since this dissipates the charge in the etheric pressure chamber that naturally forms around an etheric pattern which is being repetitively reinforced. The most effective remedy, of course, is to root out fearful thinking. Love and faith are the antitheses of fear and worry, and it is not possible for fear to coexist with love in a given individual. I have been discussing the marvelous, though widely unsuspected, power of precipitation by which we human beings can modify our environment and eventually bring it into a state which is entirely to our liking. Your every thought influences the universe in some way. The ideas you habitually operate upon in your actual philosophy constantly reinforce that philosophy by precipitating its features into your personal reality. The Lemurian philosophy is a practical guide for living. It can show you how to change your life to conform to your highest ideals and fondest dreams. If your life circumstances are not yet fully conforming to your liking, remember that your surroundings are almost an exact reflection of your attitudes. Who and what you attract are replicas of your real fears and aspirations. Is your environment sordid, chaotic, threatening, depressing? You precipitated, mentally attracted, and gravitated to such conditions. But you are the master of what thoughts pass through your mind. Refuse to continue to draw negative aspects of life to you, and hereafter think entirely uplifting thoughts. Stop engaging in immoral and trashy behavior that erodes self-esteem and produces low emotional tone. Physically remove yourself from a physical environment that drags you down. Leave people behind who make you angry, sick, and afraid because of their insane behaviors. Let the dead bury the dead. Reach out for light, love, beauty, serenity, and control of your life situations. Whatever you concentrate upon and hold in your consciousness eventuates into physical reality. When a negative thought enters your mind, do not pursue it or dwell upon it, for that gives it power. Instead, dismiss that negative thought and determinedly replace it with visions of all that is good and beautiful. Make this an unwavering habit, no matter how fiercely you have to will it to be so. Practicing the great virtues enhances your acquisition of the technique to hold to this resolution. Many positive-minded people of the world are banding together at Stell to create an oasis of civility, justice, serenity, and love. We match our dreams to the etheric patterns long ago started by higher beings for the creation of a true civilization and the establishment of the nation of God on earth. Those who have learned how to control their lives and to make their emotions serve them in uplifting ways have created a mutual environment which serves to further uplift the thoughts and aspirations of the community's inhabitants. By raising an elevated foundation upon which our children can build to still a higher level, we serve each other and help to make the world a better place. Do you have questions?
Do masters and adepts who are advanced enough to create an etheric pattern for a chair and then clothe that pattern of physical atoms also have to make the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms, etc.?
No, such atoms are always around. Since the atoms are in the air where a plant can get them, a master has them available from the same source.
Could a master precipitate a physical chair even though the physical atoms are not available just by making his own atoms?
No, a master cannot create atoms. He must clothe his precipitation by gathering atoms that already exist. Archangels create atoms, but a master can recombine them through his knowledge of chemistry. He can also mentally transmute them slightly if necessary, but he can't create them, for that is beyond human mind.
Could an angel create atoms?
Angels cannot.
Can an angel transmute an atom like a carbon atom into a nitrogen atom?
Yes, but if you are starting to talk of many grams of material, such transmutations of elements could either refrigerate a large area or turn it into an inferno, because such changes involve Einstein's formula E equals mc square relative to changes in mass defect.
Can the violet screen be used in precipitation?
The main object of visualizing the violet screen is to exclude all thoughts coming into your consciousness, whether from yourself or the outside. Your conscious effort is solely directed at imagining and maintaining that color and keeping it at a size which occupies most of the visual field. Once you have learned to withhold all unwanted thoughts, you can inject a specific visualization into your mind's eye that you can concentrate upon to the exclusion of all else. That makes for a very strong reinforcement of your etheric pattern in its pressure chamber.
Is it helpful to put a time limit on your precipitation, like deciding I would like a certain thing within a year or the month?
Well, it is not necessary that there be a time limit, but obviously you do that when precipitating parking spaces for your car. Goal setting is always useful in planning anything. Deciding on intermediate steps and holding to your self-arranged schedule is a good discipline in any project. There might be something that you decide should take 3 or 4 years to precipitate because it will take that long for you to accumulate the karmic credits to compensate for it.
Would setting time limits speed things up?
I don't know that a limit would necessarily speed things in itself. your effectiveness in doing the 6 steps of precipitation have far more influence on the outcome of your precipitation. Your establishing deadlines could act as inner incentive for whipping up desire and pressuring yourself to pursue the 6 steps more frequently and intensively.
I have a question on intense desire. Usually, most people don't lack for things they want. Their problem is in precipitating. What if a person has an ideal that he intellectually believes to be very fine? To precipitate that ideal or situation would require desire.
Precipitate an ideal?
Well, let's say you want to picture yourself as having a certain virtue.
Well, that is not what you use precipitation for. You precipitate things for which you can form an etheric pattern, or else you precipitate situations which require the coming together of external circumstances in just the proper order to meet your desires.
I guess I started off with a poor example. Let's say that you want something, but you don't have an intense desire for it. You can conceive of this thing as being good for you, but you can't get fired up with enthusiasm to work up your desire to a high pitch. I see desire as a function of mind, and is therefore controllable and presumably can be disciplined. Can you tell me how a person can create an intense desire? It doesn't seem to me that desire is intellectual, but emotional. I get the feeling it must be heartfelt and must already be there to work with.
We all experience desires of all sorts, from faintest wishes to those of overpowering, passionate intensity. I think your question boils down to how can you really rouse up a strong desire out of nowhere?
Maybe I can make that more specific. We had a talk about membership last night, and the term burning desire for brotherhood came up. I don't know that people as they go through life have more than 1 or 2 great motivations that could be classified near a burning desire, a real, pure, distinct desire for something. Possibly that burning desire is something that one can consciously foster?
Desire can be built up or diminished by conscious decision. I'll put it to you in a mundane example. Perhaps there was a girl that you knew in college who you thought would really be nice to have for a girlfriend or wife, but you decided you would not pursue that line of desire or start anything with her, knowing it could easily get overwhelming. You might decide you really don't have time for that sort of thing right now. You might be short on money, and you really have to get the courses finished so that you can graduate. Obviously, the possibility of that girl becoming the object of your intense desire was something which was under your conscious control. You decided whether or not you were really going to defer or fire up a desire, because you knew that if you allowed yourself to press a desire for her, you might be so feverishly pursuing her that everything else would take second place. We really are not helpless in the face of our desires, but they can be painfully exasperating.
I guess I'm interested in the mechanics of working up a desire.
Desire is fed through intention, and then positive reinforcement of it through your perceptions of all the benefits that would come of attaining your goal. Then you can start convincing yourself that if you don't get what you want, you'll be pretty unhappy, and since you don't want to be unhappy, that keeps kicking you in the positive direction of pursuing that desire. So you can build up quite a head of steam. We all seem to recognize that when there is something that we really want, the more fiercely we become desirous of it, the more surely we make certain it occurs.
Would auto-suggestion techniques be helpful?
For building up desire? Yes, I think that they would be. I doubt that that is the best way to go, though. To keep it on the conscious level would be far more effective.
That confuses me to a certain extent because some of my most successful precipitations, or getting the quickest results from my precipitations, have just been from a wish. You know, that is very nice. I would like to have that. I barely turn my back, and in a day or a week I have it.
Are these usually major type things?
Yes, it can be just that easy. Then, conversely, some of the things that I would decide that I'm going to precipitate, I really have to work on.
I believe such easy precipitations are more a matter of positive karma being settled out, and the universe was seeking how you preferred it being paid to you, so your slightest wish was acted upon rather than upon pure chance. I don't think such easy response would be the case in trying to develop a new invention or a complicated project. In my personal experience, I have discovered that some little precipitations work better if I just put in my order to the universe and then don't think about it much after that. I have few personal needs anymore, and I prefer to not precipitate things that need to be compensated with karmic credits. There's also the opposite situation where some people subconsciously don't want to successfully achieve their precipitation because of the obligations and responsibilities it would impose on them. Like the man who decides that he really wants a house rather than living in an apartment, but his considerations about having to then mow his own lawn and fix his own plumbing work against his conscious precipitation. Although he wants his own house, it is more trouble than just paying rent, so his precipitation makes no headway.
Do you think, then, that my rapid precipitations might just be mental attractions working?
Well, mental attraction and precipitation work together. They are separate avenues, but they work together. It is awfully hard to work on a precipitation without also having other minds being attracted to what you are thinking about. Whether they even know you or where you are still sending out signals that they respond to via sympathetic attunement. I would like to pursue another thought on this question. Faith has a lot to do with effective precipitation, and by that I mean knowing that precipitation always works. Frequently people tell me, I don't have to beat my head against the wall. All I have to do is put my order in and it comes. When in your personal experience you know that it works, belief and faith are weak words to describe one's surety of precipitation's effectiveness. I expect that in an advanced civilization, precipitation will occur more and more reliably for everyone. You always have to be very careful what you think about. Your every thought tends to evolve into reality.
I think that I understand what both you and she are saying. Things that I really want come to me quickly through a strong and clear-cut desire if I don't mess it up by consciously going through the steps of precipitation with my busy mind.
I guess several of us here have experienced complications if we interrupt the instinctual flow of our desire and visualization with conscious effort while precipitating. People have been effective at getting what they want out of the universe for ages without ever being aware of or analyzing the 6 essential steps they use instinctively and unconsciously. But use them they must. One of our problems in Western civilization is our culturally imbued penchant for analysis, rather than letting go and using the non-rational intuitive parts of our brains more in the Zen way. I told you that I frequently just put my desire out there and don't really think about it much because then I tend to clutter it up with possible negatives. However, if you use the 6 steps and don't worry about all of the obligations that go along with getting your desire, and just cleave to the one thought that this is what you want, then your precipitation should just happen at the next nearest opportunity for the universe to deliver it to you.
How do you improve your ability to visualize?
The violet screen helps in practicing that. Visualization is purely an imaginary type of operation, and like most other powers, improves with exercise. Now, I recognize that some people have almost no ability in spatial perception, but they can get drawings made of what they want to precipitate and burn them into their memories.
Napoleon Hill's books advise one to precipitate just money. He says, hold it in your hand, feel it, visualize it, look at it. And you said that money in itself is not a good thing to precipitate.
Well, it's more difficult to precipitate. It's hard to really get enthusiastically involved with paper credits and numbers in a bank account. Most people regard money as a means to purchase what they want, a car or a house or a vacation trip. Their visualizations focus more intently and concretely around tangible, usable, and enjoyable things, which is why most people do not precipitate money, per se, very well. Money obviously represents the karmic credits you need to buy and retain your precipitation. To qualify as karmic credits, they must be earned by creating a valuable idea from which other people can benefit, or by producing something that other people can use. You need to provide some kind of useful service in order to earn money, and it is possible to really personally be worth $1 million or more a year to the world because of things that you have set into motion. A person who dreams of starting and building a great university, for instance, is more likely to pull together huge sums of money because he has a desire to accumulate the wherewithal to create something. But he's visualizing that university, the buildings, laboratories, grounds, people graduating, and so forth. Now that's going to inspire his desire far more than adding more digits in a bank account.
Can we relate the man who wants to create a university to our idea of wanting to build still? Do we visualize all of these people graduating and going to Philadelphia?
Sure, as one of many such visualizations, plus all the general long-range plans and all the personal short-range plans in between. A city is the accumulation of thousands upon thousands of thoughts of all the people in it put together. Each house that is built has thousands of items that have to be considered and dealt with, and there are thousands of problems to be dealt with by the designers and those who are actually putting it together. Factories, roads, utilities, businesses, financing, government, and schools amount to a myriad types of precipitations, and they all build into the grand overall precipitative visualization of the city of Stell.
You were talking about attracting a mate. Can't you attract a business partner the same way?
Certainly.
I think that people wanting to start businesses in Stell tend to consider just the people who are already here for business partners instead of putting in an order for someone with specific skills who who isn't here yet.
Good idea.
Let's say two people are independently precipitating conflicting goals, which are going to affect their mutual environment.
You mean like between husband and wife or something?
Well, perhaps. It doesn't matter who the individuals are. Maybe a group of people are interested in putting up a particular building, and they each are independently precipitating different things here and there.
Well, that's where an architect comes in. He focuses everything for unification.
Well, I agree. But what I'm wondering about is, how do you define interference in somebody else's environment? Do the people involved attract that in their environment?
I don't feel that people attract those situations in which there are cross precipitations. If two or more qualified executives are vying to move up to become president of a company, or if competitors in a sporting event all hope to be the winner, then you naturally have divergent personal goals. Such interference in one another's environment is a recognized condition in which competitors agree to function. So long as there is fair play and they don't use sorcery on one another, there is no karmic interference. However, conflict of goals is an everyday occurrence, and each person's goals are probably as justifiable as anyone else's. Such conflicting precipitations usually don't have clear resolutions. When you're precipitating something for yourself and nobody else knows about it, and you're not taking away anything from somebody else, then the universe leaves the door open for you, and you just go right ahead and do it.
Would writing down my goals help my precipitation of them?
Yes, to the extent that doing so helps to focus your intention and helps as a visualization aid. Writing down all your long-range goals can help clarify your priorities so that you can more intently concentrate on the goals most immediately needed. Then the lesser goals aren't so likely to be nattering in the background as a distraction.
Is there a limit to the number of things a person can precipitate?
Probably not, from a theoretical standpoint, but successful precipitation depends upon your mental skills and faith, and then there are practical limitations as to how much time you have and your ability to karmically compensate.
If you're in charge of a project for which you are really precipitating a positive outcome, are you thereby influencing the people who work for you in any way which constitutes interference?
I would think it's your job as a supervisor to influence your subordinates to help fulfill your assigned goals. They obtain their wages on the agreement that they are going to work toward the purposes of their employer. As a supervisor, you are expected to strive for the positive outcome of your assignment. Your precipitative efforts could hardly be construed as interference in your co-workers' lives, unless you also use sorcery on them.
What is meant by mental transmutation?
Mental transmutation refers to improving your own attitudes towards conditions impinging on your life which are beyond your practical power to control. In short, being happy with the best you can do at the moment. Of course, you can choose to be dissatisfied with everything in your life, at one end of the spectrum, to being content with having nothing, to the point of having no aspirations for self-betterment. In a facetious way, it can be said, if you can't precipitate an actual improvement, then mentally transmute what you do have so that you are happy with it. All right, then, that concludes this session.
You've been listening to Precipitation, part of a series of discussions with Richard Kinninger entitled On Becoming an Initiate.